Welcome to Simply Sewing with Sew Very Easy. My name is Laura, and a centered zipper is used often in garment construction. The back of the skirt, back of a pair of pants, even the back of jackets and the front of jackets. They're also used for decorations like at the bottom of your cuffs on your pants. They're a lot of fun to use and they are very easy to put in. So let's put in a centered zipper. A centered zipper application is used with just a regular zipper. A zipper that has the stopper on one end, the two ends are open, and with one pull. It doesn't matter the size of the zipper, the application is the same. And today I'm going to be using a nylon zipper. They're the easiest to work with because we can cut them if we need to. The seam allowances do not change on this type of zipper. The fabric does need to have the edges finished. A zigzag, a serge stitch, however you'd like to have that finished. We put right sides together and we're going to still use that 5/8 seam allowance. I will be marking the seam allowance so that you can see it. You do not have to mark it, but if you feel more comfortable, you can. Before we sew that seam, we need to decide where that zipper is going to go. Because I have a nylon zipper, I can shorten it up at the top. And by doing that, it will save having to worry about this little pull getting in the way of your machine. You can always go up one size to the recommended pattern zipper. If you want 7, go up to 8 inches. When the zipper is installed, we're going to be able to trim off these ends. So we need to mark a placement. Close the zipper, having that zipper pull sitting outside of the top of the fabric. Where that zipper end is, we need to mark the fabric. And I'm going to mark it right on top of where that little stopper is. This little mark is going to be a stopping and starting point. We can sew our regular seam coming right up to that stop and backstitch and secure right there. If you're sewing the seam going in the other direction, you're going to start at this little mark, backstitch, anchoring, and go all the way down. You can sew in either direction. We just need to stop and start at this point. So we have part of that seam sewn, but where that zipper is, it is open. We will finish this row of stitching, but we're going to use a basting stitch. Now you can do this by hand or set your machine to very large stitches because these stitches will be taken out afterwards. I like to just set my machine at a very big stitch and stitch coming quite close to this little marker. So we have the normal row of stitching coming to this marker and a basting stitch coming to the marker. Open up and press your seam flat. So that seam is flat on the back and has that clean finish along the front. My little mark is right here, so the zipper is going to sit on the top. I'll match up the mark to the bottom of that zipper, and I do have those ends sticking out. The teeth of the zipper need to line up right in the middle where those two fabrics are joining. We can pin the zipper on or we can glue it. With the zipper facing you, you can walk that zipper down so that the teeth are going to follow that center line. And as you walk the zipper down, you can rub that glue so it sticks. With that zipper temporarily glued on, it's going to be easier to stitch. We can also run a little bit of glue on each of these seam allowances so that all of the layers are stuck together. So we're just going to add a little bit of glue just to stick that down. Once it's glued down, I like to add 2 pins. One pin that's sitting on top of this little metal stopper. So the pin is going to show from the other side. The second pin is going to go right at the top. And we get to stitch this down from the right side. I can see that bottom pin and I know that that stopper is below the bottom pin. So I want to keep all of my stitching above this line. I need to sew starting from the top, and I'm going to stitch down to where that pin is, cross over, and come back. And this is one time it's really good to mark. because we do want our stitching to be equal. Depending on your pattern, they will have a recommended drawing and stitching line. Once we know that distance, we can draw our lines. So I have the one line coming down, I'm right above that pin mark, and I'm coming back up. I can now remove the bottom pin and that top pin. Even though that zipper is glued on, I just like the security of the pins, and I'm going to pin along the bottom. So I'm pinning down the little tails so they don't get caught up and the glue doesn't give away. For the top, I want to make sure that the end of the zipper is sticking out and that that pull is also at the top, out of the way. Now I can stitch down following this line, and when I get to the bottom, I'm going to go very slowly over top of those teeth, and then I'm going to stitch all the way back up. From the zipper side, we can see the stitching coming down, going over, and coming back out. We can now remove our markings and remove those two bottom pins. From here, we need to remove that basting stitch that kept those two layers together. You can also give this a light pressing so it's nice and flat to start with. Now we're going to be able to remove that row of basting. And by having those big stitches, it will be very easy to remove. This is a completed center fold zipper. And that zipper is tucked inside, but the folds cover it. And that zipper is going to be able to run freely along the inside. And we see very little of that zipper. That little zipper pull is going to be hidden inside of those folds, so you really don't notice it. The zipper ends are going to be finished depending on the garment you make. They will be cut off and some type of a finish will go on the end. But I would recommend to undo that zipper right now before you go any farther and tuck that inside, leaving an opening. Because if you leave the zipper up to the top and trim it off, you're going to lose that zipper pull. So before you go any further, pull that zipper inside so you don't accidentally cut that pull off. To keep everything flat, I do like to do a row of stitching right along this top, and that's before whatever I'm doing here is done. Just do a little basting stitch at the top. Just go around a couple of times. That little basting will just help keep the top together so that zipper always stays smooth. A centered zipper application is a very attractive finish because that little pull hides in between the folds. It is very flat from the front, and it's also very flat from the back, so it fits very smoothly and is very comfortable. Because zippers are not very wide, I would recommend using a zipper foot and adjust that zipper foot so you're able to follow that stitching line all the way down, over, and back up. And that's going to give you a beautiful finished center zipper. Thank you for joining me today on Simply Sewing. Feel free to subscribe, and as always, come on back. Let's see what we're sewing next time in the sewing room. Bye for now.